There's a series of works in Current that are drawings of what you call ritual objects from islands across the Pacific and from the Torres Strait. What do those works mean to you?
Well, those works were produced for an exhibition at Cairns Art Gallery called Ritual. And so when I think of ritual, I'm immediately drawn to ancient artifacts that contain all of this knowledge and power from the people or the person that created the piece. Whether that's rituals that were for good or rituals that were for bad. I don't I don't stop at, sort of works that reference either or. They're all sort of sitting in one category for me. These are amazingly old objects that speak of the time, of the place, and of the ceremony that they were used for, why they were created. And like you said, they're objects that have been scattered across the expanse of the Pacific, from Torres Strait to Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, down to sort of the South Pacific, even all the way up to Hawaii. So it spreads over quite a vast area. But those objects themselves, I looked at some which were worn, sort of over the face, that referenced sort of ceremonies that were to do with harvest season time. And then there are other objects that were given to chiefs. So little, often handheld, sort of objects that were made from shell, that showed, sort of status in your community. And then there are other objects as well that were used to assist with gardening, whether that was digging, the dirt itself, or objects that were physically placed in the ground to assist with the yields of those gardens. So, sort of spread right across, various areas of daily life. A lot of these artifacts, these sort of charms that were used to aid in certain activities across the communities.
Can I say when I look at those works, I feel like it's difficult to separate them from a conversation about the nature of anthropological collections and the removal of these objects from their traditional custodians and their placement in, museums and libraries and other institutions. So that's why in Current we've positioned them in sort of a white cube, almost as they're artworks that you have. It's almost like a visual repatriation where you're reclaiming them, despite them existing in, Western institutions almost.
Yeah. I suppose essentially, it's great that they've been contained within the that nice little space, which sort of sets them apart from the bigger exhibition. So they're sitting in their own little vitrine, really, which then sort of takes you back to a lot of those old ethnographic sort of museums that housed a lot of these objects, both here in the country plus also overseas, in these really dusty sort of storerooms, and these glass sort of cabinets where they were put out on display. But there are also a number of print-based works that sort of speak about that that movement of European powers, sort of through some of these areas to collect, sort of some of this material. And then when you look at the objects themselves, so you've got a rendering of the object, and it's just in coloured pencil, usually a couple of shades of brown as well as black. But connected to that object, there are references to the size of the object, as well as text that talks about what they were physically used for. So it sort of brings the whole experience of that object to life. So you've got, all of these different, sort of ideas all sort of playing in on one artwork. And in terms of, sort of drawing itself, that series of works is really only one of a small handful of, sort of drawn works that have actually been displayed as a drawing. So the act of drawing for me is really the start of a print, start of a sculpture, but never seen as,
Independent.
as sort of independent from, from those other mediums that, that it starts off to create. And so, like I said, it's really the one of only a small handful of drawings that have been contained and have been exhibited as that drawn element.
Yes. And I can see within them your love of drawing.
Yeah, I love to draw. Yeah, it's how I first started. I was a bit of a terror as a kid. I'd sit on, the kitchen room table with pieces of paper, cray pads, charcoal, pencils. I'd draw on the paper. Then I'd, get a little bit bored from the paper. Paper wasn't big enough. Start drawing on the table, drawing underneath the table, drawing on the walls. And so, drawing for me has always been, I absolutely love to draw. Yeah.